Hi, this is Dana Arcuri, author, speaker, survivor, and advocate, and today's topic is 15 traits that you are an empath. And so if you aren't sure if you really are or are not an empath, here are 15 signs and traits. But before I get into that, we're going to just discuss a little bit about it and then dive right into the awesome signs of an empath. So we're going to start with this. Do you ever walk into a room? Perhaps you are on your way to work and then you walk in the front door and there's 10 people and they're all kind of gathered together and talking and whispering, and you can sense what they're talking about before you even audibly hear it. So nobody actually said anything to you, and yet in your gut, this gut instinct, you already know what the topic is all about. So this happens for empaths where they could end up going to a gathering, or they could even just see a stranger. Say you end up in line at the grocery store, and even though there is social distancing, you could notice and really sense that the person in front of you is very troubled. Maybe they're unhappy, maybe they're not feeling well, maybe they're physically ill, and you could actually absorb their energy, and you could sense that something's deeply, deeply wrong with this other person. So if you relate to that, that is actually one of the signs and traits of an empath. We're going to get into the definition of an empath, and let me stick on my glasses so I can see. According to dictionary.com, an empath is someone who understands the mental or emotional state of others in a way that defies conventional science and psychology. Empaths have the ability to sense the feelings, thoughts, and energies of people, plants, animals, places, and objects. In addition to sensing, empaths absorb the energies of those around them. The empaths can use their abilities to help others by imagining themselves being in someone else's shoes in their situation, and they connect to them on a deeper level. So this is something that can be a positive and a negative depending on the other person or group of people's energy. Obviously, if you are around someone who is really happy, that can feel really great. And then there's this positive energy and excitement and enthusiasm, and you're like, yeah, and that's great. But if you're around someone and say they're a narcissist and they're complaining and they're gaslighting and manipulating you and on and on and on with a three-ring circus, that could become exhausting, draining. And you may find that you really need to get away from that person. You need to just be alone and refuel. So these are some of the signs of an empath. And back in March 2017, I was on YouTube kind of just checking out different videos when I came across a TED Talk video that was absolute pure brilliance. And I actually had a light bulb moment by watching this incredible discussion. So it was called The Gentle Power of a Highly Sensitive Person. And it was really amazing to hear about people who are highly sensitive and their characteristics and how it impacts their life and their health and so forth. And then I started doing more research. I started doing a lot of reading and educating myself, and discovered that I am a highly sensitive person who is highly intuitive, who happens to be an empath. So that has a lot of positives. I see a lot of good in each one of those, but I've learned through trial and error, through age, maturity, and experience and knowledge that there are times I really do need to just take a break, to spend some quiet time alone, to recharge my batteries, because oftentimes if I'm in large crowds around anyone who's extremely emotional, negative, moody, and might be very pessimistic, I feel like I absorb that energy and it's a real downer. And so I need a little time out for me to refresh, Here are the signs that you are an empath. Number 1, highly sensitive people. People who naturally are empathic are very sensitive to their environment and to others. They can quickly pick up on other people's moods, their slightest changes and emotions, and their motivations. According to credible websites, not all highly sensitive people are an empath, but most people who are an empath do have higher sensitivities. So I hope that makes sense to you. Number 2, you feel other people's emotions. The number 1 trait of an empath is that you feel other people's emotions as if they were your own. Oftentimes you absorb people's emotions like a sponge. You just kind of soak it up. And if you are an empath, you innately pick up on subtle changes, such as expressions, body language, facial gestures, and a tone of voice that other people may miss. So there are times that you could be talking to someone and they could be saying something to you, and regardless of what they're saying, you pick up on what's really going on. You could tell what's really going on behind closed doors, even in words that are unspoken. So in a way that could be super beneficial, because then you could tell who's a truth seeker versus who cannot be trusted. Next is number 2, introverted personalities. Oftentimes, empaths are known to be introverts. So many prefer to limit their social interactions, being in large crowds, or being around extremely aggressive, loud people. If an empath is attending, we're going to say, for an example, a family function or a business meeting, and they are near someone who's outspoken, super domineering and aggressive and arrogant, maybe someone who has toxic behaviors, this could cause an empath to feel overwhelmed, uncomfortable, and out of sync with themselves. So that's why a lot of times people who are empaths may need to cut it short on certain gatherings, especially when there's large, loud crowds. If someone in these negative situations, it's common in these negative situations for an empath to crave solitude, peace, and time alone. I definitely can say yes to that one. Not all empaths are introverted, though. Not me, I'm an extrovert. So I am an extrovert. I have a bubbly personality. I am definitely a people person. I'm a social butterfly, but there comes a point in time when I seem to just almost like a light bulb, boom, shut off. So maybe in the early hours of the morning and early afternoon, I'm more social and talkative and, kind of really getting into discussions and so forth. But then when it gets a little bit later, I notice I'm starting to get tired. I've been around these people for a long time. It might have been like an all-day function, maybe even like 6 or 8 hours. And all of a sudden, I kid you not, I crash. Literally crash, just like that, where, this happy person suddenly I'm like, oh Lord, I just need to go home. And it's interesting to meet people and then they start seeing me, this happy, bubbly person, talkative, really enthusiastic person with positive energy in the daytime. And then all of a sudden, say we're together at a function. And this happened. This really did happen with my one girlfriend when we were newer friends and we went together to a conference. So in the very beginning, for the early hours, I was just, having a happy time and enjoying myself and talking and really enthusiastic and participating in conversations. But when it reached the later hours, like after dinner, and this was this huge, long, drawn-out conference, and finally it was over, and it was around 11 o'clock at night, and we're driving home, and I am not speaking. I am just sitting there, kind of like in my own little bubble, because I am so exhausted and drained, and I honestly thought I was just going to fall asleep right there and then. on the ride home. And she looked over at me and she said, wow, I've never seen you like this. And I said, please don't take it personal. I reach a point later when it really reaches like late hours and I'm kind of burn out on being in large crowds. And I really, really am drained and exhausted. And I absolutely I can no longer give. I can no longer talk. I can no longer communicate. I mean, I really honestly feel that I do crash. And that's why I have to limit these large crowds and these big, long, drawn out conferences and workshops, because sometimes it's just over the top too much for me. If it's like a big 8-hour day, I'm better in smaller gaps of time, like 2 hours, 4 hours. But that's just me. That's just me. So I am a people person, but I am an empath, and I do have sacred space that I practice self-care and refuel and recharge my batteries. And if you're the same way, understand that it's okay. It's okay to be that way. Next is number 4, highly intuitive. Empaths are usually very intuitive people. They're deeply in touch with their own feelings, and they have a much better understanding of themselves. They can sense things that are happening around them, such as excitement, stress, anger, joy, grief, fear, and danger. In addition, they have learned to trust their gut instincts. So through time, we really do learn that our gut is actually guiding us and our intuition is spot on. Next is that through maturity and experience, empaths know that their intuition is there to protect them and guide them. Ironically, their intuition helps them to avoid people who are toxic, manipulative, and untrustworthy. So, if you ever sense something in you, and it could be like that small, still voice or just something in your gut saying, don't do it, or beware, take heed, my friend. Your gut will never fail you. Next is number 5. It's an automatic lie detector. So empaths, it's almost like they have this little ability that's like a lie detector. So this is super cool, and it's an absolute benefit because then you know who you could trust and who you can't trust. So empaths have the ability to unconsciously sense when someone is lying to them. Empaths can catch the small cues that something isn't right, a story isn't adding up, or that someone or something seems off. Usually it's your intuition that is like a blaring signal warning you that someone isn't being honest with you. If you do sense that someone's deceiving you or something's just not adding up, someone's maybe handing you a bunch of BS or gaslighting you, if something within you, that little soft voice, that a little gut instinct and intuition, trust it. Trust it, trust it, trust it. Know that you have a little lie detector within you and you can tell if someone's honest or not. Number 6, people-pleasing tendencies. And I admit, I am a recovered people pleaser. It took me many, many years to come to terms with this and to finally kick the whole people pleasing to the curb. So empaths tend to put other people's needs before their own needs to the point where it can actually drain them. By nature, you are a nurturer. Through time, you may learn that it's not selfish to take care of your own self and to not permit others to treat you like a doormat or to take advantage of you. So understand that you don't have to say yes to everything and anything. There might be, say, your boss wants you to work overtime straight through the whole month. Say they, are telling you, oh, in October, we're really busy and I need you every single Saturday to come in and work overtime. Well, guess what? You don't have to. You don't have to agree to that. You could say, you know what? I'm available 2 Saturdays in October, but that is it. And I have other obligations and responsibilities. And stand firm in it because you do have boundaries and that you don't have to be a people pleaser, even with your boss, with your family, with your friends, or with strangers. Next is Number 7, positive and negative vibes. Due to your ability to feel other people's emotions, you are automatically aware of the energy that's surrounding you. So you could actually walk into a building and you sense the energy in that building. You could walk into a grocery store, a mall, someone's house, a business, what have you. You could sense the energy going on. Do you ever walk into a house or building and instantly something just feels creepy, totally off? Something seems sinister? It's happened to me, and I've always trusted it. I've always trusted this. So know that you're not just imagining it, it really is real. Next is that, here's an example, is when you also go to a function. And I mentioned this before, you go to a function, you walk in the room, and say there's 3 people and they're talking and you kind of join in on the conversation. And immediately though, you sense that something's not right. You sense that people seem stressed out and that it's a very serious conversation going on. And you may not have even been told like the news of what happened. And yet you know in your gut, you know in your spirit that there's something quite unpleasant that has occurred. And then when you end up talking to them, they confirm, yes, it's true. So that is really interesting. The one thing we need to know is that whether a vibe is happy, sad, mad, there's a crisis, the empath will know. And an empath by nature really does prefer to be in a positive atmosphere where it's calm, where it's safe, and where it's peaceful. That is where an empath will feel best and like they're in their own comfort and they're in their own safety of their own selves. Next is daydreamers, number 8. Empaths can have challenges with focus and staying on task. You are a dreamer and have a vivid imagination. You easily get bored with daily mundane chores. If life isn't stimulating, an empath will go into a detached state of mind. So one example is if you're taking a class and the subject is either extremely difficult or very unstimulating. So I remember different times when I was in college and I was younger, I was in my teens and I started college and there were a few classes that were so stinking boring. I wanted to fall asleep. It was just topics that I had absolutely no interest in, but because of what I was majoring in, they basically enforced, you have to take this class, you need these credits. And so there you are, falling asleep in class. And so there are times where we will notice that if something is not keeping our interest, if we just have no connection to either the topic, the discussion, the subject, or what have you, it's hard for us to stay focused and like really stay involved in what we're hearing or learning. So we have to really work hard. If it is like something work related or college related, we have to work extra hard. I'm talking people, I used to get those note cards, the note cards, and like literally speak it, see it, read it. I mean, I would have to over and over to practice these boring, dull facts, say it was a history class. And then I'd have to like constantly have these flashcards and be speaking, hearing, and seeing it to really get all my senses going. Because for empaths, we really do have this nature where we like to use all of our senses, sight, sound, taste, you name it, and the whole thing. It's really interesting, but sometimes this could be challenging if you are at work and you have a chore or a duty you need to do and it's just something you're not into. So you got to really buck up and continue focusing on it regardless. Let's move on to number 9, deep thinkers. Empaths are deep thinkers. Oftentimes they are problem solvers and they are interested in finding solutions. They are resourceful people who seek the truth and will go to great lengths to gain more insight as well as to resolve, hang on, got my notes, to resolve their concerns or resolve whatever the matter may be. They often will search for facts and answers to give themselves peace of mind because of their ability to think deeply and to resolve conflicts. They are reflective and very aware of various situations. So a lot of times an empath will actually even think ahead of a situation. They'll actually consider an outcome. So they didn't even reach the outcome, but they actually are really good at figuring out and anticipating what the outcome may be so they could determine, do I want to do this? Do I want to go there? Do I want to start this new job, this new project, etc., etc.? And so keep in mind that empaths have this awesome quality of resourcefulness and solving problems and conflicts. Number 10, empaths are storytellers. They have a wonderful imagination, which makes them gifted at storytelling. They have an inquisitive mind with an ever-expanding broad range of knowledge. Some empaths are diehard romantics when it comes to storytelling. They may also have a knack for being the keepers of ancestral knowledge and family history. Number 11, now this one's really important, people, especially what's going on in 2020. I'm going to kind of take a pause because this part is important because this is really to do with what's happening within our world right now, especially the unrest with the pandemic. So we're going to be talking about TV, videos, news media, social media. So there's all these different ways that we get information, that we get facts, that we get the most latest, updatest news. And empaths are extremely sensitive to the TV, videos, movies, the news, social media, etc., etc., etc. There are times where it's just overload, where say you're scrolling through Facebook or some social media and you're just seeing constantly political bashing and it's going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth between all these people, and some could be people you know. And then there's people who are being attacked and there's all this drama going on. It could drain you. It could be very, very exhausting for you. And you might just need to say, you know what? Time out, unplug from social media. So empaths are extremely sensitive to violence, emotional dramas, depicting shocking graphic scenes of physical or emotional pain inflicted on adults, children, or animals. And this could bring an empath easily to tears. So here's an example. You could be watching a movie. Let's just say you're watching a movie. And all of a sudden, there's a scene that's like super dramatic, super tragic. Say someone lost their child, and it's a really sad scene in the movie. You know, the whole thing where the music's playing. I love how they do this. They draw you in, people. So the music's playing, dun, 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 dun. And then they're talking and sharing, and you see, oh, they're crying, and there's a funeral. You might find yourself just sobbing. You're just sobbing right along with them. You feel it. You feel their pain. You feel it as if you are there, as if you lost the child, as if you're at the funeral, as if you're grieving. And so we have to be really careful with what we're watching. There are times where it just gets over the top too much. Next, at times, empaths may feel anxious, physically ill, or teary-eyed when watching a TV show, say on Netflix, Hulu, a TV show. Some empaths may struggle to comprehend any such cruelty and may have grave difficulty in expressing themselves in the face of another's ignorance, closed-mindedness, and an obvious lack of compassion. So an empath simply cannot justify the suffering that other people feel and that they're observing and that they see, and then they're taking on that energy, so then they're feeling it. And so there are times where if there is a movie you're watching and it's very graphic and very gory, and we're just going to use the example now of animals, and say there's some kind of animal cruelty happening in this movie. Well, even though it might be just fictional, it's just a movie, you could find it extremely disheartening, uncomfortable, and painful to watch the very graphic, abusive scenes happening on TV or in movies. And another thing, and we got to bring this up, people, because we're heading into October, and we know what is happening on the last day of October. It's Halloween. Now, some people are really into those haunted houses and scary movies, the psycho movies, Halloween. There's so many scary movies out there. But if you're an empath, be careful, because there are times it could actually cause you more harm than good to be absorbing that type of negative energy and all that graphic blood and gore. And just the fear, it could boom, send you into fight, flight, or freeze. So you really need to be careful on what you allow yourself to watch, including scary movies. Next is number 12, chronic fatigue and physical pain. Many empaths get emotionally and physically depleted compared to non-empaths. They may experience chronic fatigue, stress, environmental sensitivities, unexplained aches and pains, sensitivities to food, sensitivities to medicine, unexplained weird allergies. You may get set off by a strong odor or even perfume. Different fragrances can really, really, really cause you to have migraines or problems. So you're super, super sensitive to that. You might be sensitive to bright lights, loud noises, and itchy fabrics. So these are a lot of the signs also of a highly sensitive person. And the empath has a lot of these same characteristics. So you have to really use caution and understand that if you end up with, say, a sensitivity to perfume, stop wearing it. Try to minimize your time around anyone. You may need to avoid scented, fragrant candles. You may need to opt for just not wearing fragrance at all, because if it causes you migraines or illness, it's just not even worth it. Your health is so important and essential. People, take care of yourself. Next is that essentially you are walking around in the world with all of the accumulated emotions and energy from others. Remember to take time to recharge your batteries and to really be aware of if you have food sensitivities, if you have medication sensitivities or allergies or what have you, take heed and avoid those things that are really negative triggers for you. Number 13, positive magnet. Because empaths are compassionate, caring, kind-hearted souls, they are like a magnet who seem to attract others to them, including strangers. People of all walks of life and even animals are attracted to your warmth and your genuine compassion. For even complete strangers find it so easy to just walk up to you and talk to you and have conversations with you. Sometimes strangers will just pour out their soul and tell you their life story. So I have this happen all the time where I instantly, boom, click just like that with strangers. And before I know it, they're telling me their life story and I'm listening and I'm there and I'm giving them, encouragement and trying to inspire them and let them know, hang on to hope, it's going to be okay. So it's really cool how people are so attracted to empaths. And it's like they're magnets, why? Because they know this person's kind-hearted, sensitive, intuitive, caring, trustworthy, etc., etc. These are all super beautiful traits. Number 14, animal lovers. This is awesome. If you're an empath, You love animals and birds and beloved creatures, and they love you. They are attracted to you. So here's an example. So I remember last year on one occasion, and actually it was in October, it was right around Halloween, and I remember I dropped my daughter off at work and I decided to go get Starbucks. So I go into Starbucks and there's this guy and he has his adorable dog dressed up in a Halloween costume. Well, instantly, I was just gushing all over with this dog. I'm talking to the dog. I'm telling this dog how beautiful she is. Oh, what a great costume she had on. I mean, it was so cute and adorable, and I love the furry friends. And you should have saw her expression. You could see like she was smiling. Did you ever see a dog smile? It's so cute. So she was just kind of like happy and cheerful, and she just wanted to be near me. And I think the owner, he kind of stood back and just observed us for a minute. And I could tell that he knew, this is a dog lover. She's cool. She's fine. She loves my dog. And obviously he was, super into that I'm into animals. And so, then we start chatting, and before you know it, you make a new friend. So understand that empaths are also a magnet for furry friends, and that we connect deeply to different kinds of animals. For some people, it might be horses. For other people, it might be cats, might be birds, might be dogs, or what have you. There are some people, they love pigs and goats and cows. They deeply care for the well-being of these creatures. And they want them to be safe and to be loved and to be cared for. In addition, they have a special connection with animals, and that they can often feel their needs and can communicate with them in a very soothing manner. So there are some empaths that have that innate ability to kind of tune in to that little creature, whoever the furry friend may be, and without even, words spoken, without even knowing whether something's wrong or right, the empath will know if the dog is safe and if the dog is well taken care of. Now understand, dear empaths, you cannot stomach any violence or cruelty towards animals and are more likely to advocate for furry friends. And I thank you for that, because I love furry friends too. Number 15, this is the last one, people. You are a healer. Oh, my favorite part. It's the most beautiful thing on earth, empaths. You were created to be a healing soul to the world. Understand that you have the ability to help people feel comfortable and calm. You have this very calming nature. People feel safe with you. You are a gifted healer who can transform humanity for the better. Just as people seek out empaths for advice, they also feel at peace in your presence. In fact, people often unwittingly seek out their most empathic friends during difficult times. So it's during people's tragic hardships and trials and losses and suffering. Well, they will seek out the friends of theirs who are empaths, because they know that is a caring, healing soul who will be there to support them, to encourage them, and to help them in any manner that they can do so. Next is that this is something you can develop and use to actually heal people, in the sense of helping them work past serious emotional baggage, trauma, and to overcome unhealthy patterns. If you want to make a positive difference in the universe, embrace your special talents and gifts, because you really are a healing soul. And next, we're going to head into a few tips. So before I wrap it up, these are my tips for October 2020, and there's some big reasons why I wanted to end on this note. So as we end September and we start October 2020, we're going to begin October 1st with a full moon. So we're going to start off October with a bang. We're going to end October with another full moon. And other people could be like, so what? What does that mean? Oh, empaths know exactly what it means. You see, empaths are so intuitive and highly sensitive people that they are very sensitive to the planetary changes. They can feel in their spirit when there is a shift in the planetary world, when there's a full moon, even when there's a new moon. Most empaths are very, very in tune to what is going on in the world, even in the spiritual realm, what you don't see with the naked eye. So, oftentimes, it's during this time, such as right now, we're heading into a month before the presidential election of the United States of America. This is a huge shift. Our world has been in a major shake-up with the unrest of the pandemic and everything going on, especially in politics. We must understand right now, especially on television, if you're watching the news, if you're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, even if you're at home and you can hear conversations happening around you, no matter where you go, people, we can't escape it. Everybody's talking about the election. And with the talking about the election, there is heightened aggression, conflicts, division between a lot of people. There's a lot at stake coming up in the beginning of November 2020. And we can understand that people are extremely concerned. And of course, I justify, yes, we have every right to be concerned for our nation. And I too have great concern. We must also know that if we are empaths, we are very, very sensitive to being around these aggressive, domineering, hateful people who are stirring up and manipulating and gaslighting and causing great division and conflict and unrest and chaos in our nation. And so, dear empaths, give yourself permission to step away from the drama and practice self-care, because you are going to need it in the month of October and November. Buckle up, my dear empaths, because we are headed into a heightened, aggressive, full-powered next 2 months that are going to be quite explosive. There's going to be people who are going to have anger problems, who may want to fight with you online, especially social media. So avoid this unproductive behavior. Understand you're not going to benefit from it, people. It's only going to cause you, the empaths, to be drained, stressed out, exhausted. You might end up with insomnia or a migraine, physical ailments and pain, because you're taking on the world's energy. Remember now, you absorb the energy around you. Unless you have learned the tips of how to not absorb the energy, you might feel really weighed down in the month of October and November 2020. So please, please, please take care of yourself. Create very firm, healthy boundaries. You might want to take frequent breaks. Unwind, relax, go for a nature walk, get outdoors if the weather's still nice. Enjoy the beautiful, colorful leaves. Oh my goodness, just yesterday I took a nice nature walk. The leaves are gorgeous. They're already changing. I love the reds and the oranges and the golds. Pure brilliance and just absolutely gorgeous. Fall is my favorite time of the year. And so let's know that it's okay to take care of ourselves and to keep a big handle on our boundaries, maintain those boundaries. And we're going to end on this last note, which is a very inspiring quote by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, and it's about empaths. And here it is. She says, "The most beautiful people we have known are those who have known defeat, known suffering, known struggle, known loss, and found their way out of the depths. These persons have an appreciation, a sensitivity, an understanding of life that fills them with compassion, gentleness, and a deep, loving concern. Beautiful people do not just happen. And so, my beautiful empaths friends, share with me, do you relate with any of these 15 highlights of the traits and characteristics of an empath? Which ones do you most relate to? What do you struggle with as an empath? Please share with me if you are a highly sensitive person, if you are highly intuitive or an empath. I would love to hear your stories. And then meanwhile, have a beautiful, peaceful, calm October 2020. Take care.